G'day viewers. Here's the circuit we're talking about. Notice we got 12 volts DC on this side, and on this side we've got an AC signal in the range of 60 to 200 megahertz. I should have written that's 1 volt peak to peak. I'll put that in now. 1 volt peak to peak. It's a very simple circuit. In the centre you'll see the tap point, A and B. That's where we'll be probing our voltages. It's quite a simple circuit. This is on the lead up to something a little bit more complicated, but we need to get that sorted out in the beginning. So that's all that we've got on the circuit for today. But next is a bit on quantum entanglement. Now I've had a bit of a read on this, and this might sound a little bit impossible, but Gary and I, two separate minds, other side of the planet, opposing sides of the planet, our brains at the moment are quantum entangled. Now I don't know if you follow me, but we're having information exchanges and agreements and disagreements. So I'm stating that there is quantum entanglement between our two entities. Okay. A little bit more on gravity. Yeah, we're progressing quite nicely on that hypothesis, which will develop into a theory and may even be proven to be a theorem. So, a little bit about the cat. Gary, looking to score cheap points, thought I disrespected and abused my cat. Very special cat, that one. Very smart cat. And that cat has a very special name, and you should Google it. I in no way was abusing my cat. My cat and I get on quite well. That's my cat's name, Bastet. If you thought I was saying bastard, there's two different sounds in the Australian language. Bastard is a much longer drawn out word and ends in a D. Also got an A in it and an R and another A. Take away one of the E's. Bastard, and the cat's name is Bastet. So you should Google it. Very interesting story. My cat thinks it's a Egyptian god. Trust me, cat owners will know what I mean. Yeah, so that's the little story about the cat. Also, we'll get back to the gravity. The apparent rotational speed of the outer galactic stars and planets and anything in the outer rims of the galaxies. That's quite easily explained when you consider that gravity is a superfluid. Like I think I've told you before, that I like a field of study called magnetohydrodynamics, and all that is the study of motion under magnetic and electrical influences of particles, and you can expand that out and it becomes gravitohydrodynamics, and the theory holds true. It's gravity is a superfluid. The part where I made a mistake was I was stating that the gravitons were being emitted from the mass. No, it's only a small correction. That part was wrong, and that was proven by analysis of certain motions and putting certain parameters into the equation. Gravitons can be they can be made in space when too much force is exerted on the current gravitons. Just like when you put too much force on a gluon, you create a quark or anti-quark. You're putting energy into the system. So you're putting external energy into a small closed system to create new particles. Or when you're ripping space-time, anywhere where you're attempting to rip, the energy will actually create new gravitons under my theory. I don't want to give too much away, so we'll just leave it at that. There'll be enough there for people to think about and study, and you'll see I'm right. But anyway, I'd like to see what Gary says about quantum entanglement of two minds. And our brains do work on photons and electromagnetic waves. On the basic level, they work on a chemical protein exchange, but the actual energy exchange is in photons, quantized packets of energy. Getting back to this universe and the theory, mine's not a theory of everything. A lot of people sort of run around and go, oh, I've got a theory of everything. No, mine is a very focused, small segment of the phenomena known as the universe. I focused on a very discrete component that we know as gravity, and how it works, and what it's doing, and how it can be predicted. And by the way, while we're here, I'll just establish that if you move 1 kilogram, 1 metre, over a time period of 1 second, that equals 1 joule. Okay, 1 joule. And that also conforms to the half mv squared rule. There's another one for you. I'll write this out on the back here. You can dispute this if you want. It's a mad formula. Don't like me writing things down, bad luck. E equals mad. Mass times acceleration times distance, or displacement if you want. Argue with that one. I think very carefully about all this. Now, we're all human, we all make mistakes, but when you make a mistake, you should admit to that mistake, correct it, and then progress from there. There is there's no point in just yelling and carrying on like a madman just because you're trying to cover for your mistakes or whatever. Yeah. So that's my little message for today. You can argue against it if you want. The entire universe is, just because I made one little machine, I observed some phenomena that isn't quite usual. and we're expanding on that. We're saying, why did this happen? Why did that happen? And people are naturally going to argue and say, oh no, because they're instant experts, you know, lounge chair, armchair professors or keyboard warriors, whatever you want to call them. I don't come here and brag and say I'm this good. No, I came here and I present ideas, I present findings, I give mathematical proofs, and if you still want to just argue for argument's sake, it's argumentum ad nauseam. If you want to argue forever, argumentum ad infinitum. But if you want to argue against me personally, it's argumentum ad hominem. Yeah, you will lose, because I stick to the truth, the findings and the evidence. And that's why a lot of people who've never met me, they've got a few videos up, they have my support. I see the truth, I see the evidence, I don't see ramblings. I don't see, well I do, I've seen some of your videos, Gary, they're absolutely insane, and you call me somebody that needs a bit of a rest in a sanitarium. But when I go there, I'll reserve a room in the next door for you. Then we can argue ad infinitum. But just, Gary's one of those people wants to blow the world up because he is unhappy. He's unhappy with the world, so he wants to destroy the whole world under the pretense, and this is where you come off sounding like a 15th or 14th century member of the Spanish Inquisition, religious nuts that were out to kill you to save your soul. You know how stupid that sounds? You want to end everyone's suffering, you want to save us by suffering, by blowing the planet up with nuclear bombs. Or worse, given the mechanism, you want to drive the earth into the sun. So I'm questioning your sanity, Gary. Who the hell is letting you roam the streets? Or are you just staying in your cave? And by cave, that's a metaphor. That means you're isolating yourself away from humanity and barely dealing with the barest minimum number of people, because you hate people. You hate everybody, and I don't think you really hate everybody. I think you hate yourself. And I'd like to know the conditions that caused you to think like this. You know, you're out there openly bragging how intelligent you are, yet you're acting like a moron. You've really picked the wrong person to argue with me. Okay? You do not argue with me, Gary. You will lose, and you will lose time and time again. I've dealt with people like you, similar people with what you'd call narcissistic personality disorder, megalomania, paranoia. I'm not paranoid, Gary. I know everyone's out to get me. That's a joke, by the way. Yeah, this I'll beat you, I'll just yell louder type attitude. I don't think you're going to be able to keep up. And just as if you want to respond and continue this argument, I'll give you some choices. Now, you can choose for the next experiment, you can choose the frequency, 50 or 60 hertz, 50 hertz or 60 hertz. And I'm not here to punish you, Gary. I'm here to try and talk sense to you, if that's possible. We can go 110 volts or 240 volts. There's your choices. pick a frequency and pick a voltage. Right? This is not a magic trick. This is, I'm asking you to pick the parameters for the next circuit. So take a choice of 50 or 60 hertz, 110 or 240 volts. Doesn't matter, the choice is up to you. It's not a trick. I'm asking you to choose the parameters, so I'll put those into the equations and we'll see what we come up with. And I'll show you a circuit that doesn't obey Faraday's law, it does not obey Kirchhoff's law. And getting back to that, you said I watched that video years ago, before I even saw you on the net. I watched Electroboom's response, and when I first saw it, I thought they've got the probes on the wrong way. One way they're picking up a forward voltage, and in the other way they're picking up the back EMF, the reverse voltage. So if anyone does transformers, that will make sense to them, because in one way you get an additive voltage and the other way you get an opposing voltage. So that's my little rant for today. You can choose not to respond, you can hide under your bed, I don't care. But I'll still stick to kinetic energy equals half mv squared. I've given you the definition of mass, time, displacement, and you know, you can make up your own formula, and but you can't say it's joules, right? You could say it's so many Garys. You can make up your own standard unit, but then you have to come up with all the supporting theory that so that can be applied to the actual physical results. I use meters, seconds, kilogram, meter, second, system of international units, standard international units. So that's about it. That's my little chat for you today. I'm interested to see what you think about entanglement, especially our minds being entangled through information. I'm interested to see what you think about this little circuit here, and I'm also interested to which values you're going to pick. So that's about it for today. Just a short video. You can do your hour-long waffle and rave on and call me all sorts of names, and you don't even know how to insult an Australian. I'm not going to give you any, I'm not going to teach you how to insult Australians, because if one met you, you'd be on the deck, you'd be upside down. So anyway, that's it for today. I hope you're enjoying yourself in this wonderful world that we live in. And one more thing. If I make a lot of money out of this, Gary, I promise you, I'll give you the best health care in the world, and I'll make sure you live to 100. What do you think about that? That would be the ideal thing. So you could live another 40 years and just watch the world around you. I'd like to see how grotchety you got when you're 100 years old. Anyway, cheers people, I'm out of here.